Welcome back to the Locked On Cowboys Podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Thank you for tuning in. I am your host, Marcus Mosher. You can follow me on Twitter at Marcus_Mosher. And joining me today, as always, is Landon McCool. You can check him out on Twitter at McCoolBCB. You can also listen to him on the Best Coast Boys podcast. Landon, what is going on, sir?
Not much. It's I can't speak for you, but it's a beautiful day outside. It's sunny and there's lovely weather. I don't know what's happening for you, but we're
just snow. Just snow. Typical April snow. Okay. We got a busy show for you, Landon, today. Or for you. Well, it is going to be for you because you don't know what we're doing today. I'm actually going to surprise you. I did not go over any pre-show notes with you, because I wanted to get some of your initial reactions on a mock draft, really. Todd McShay of ESPN released, I believe it was his third mock draft of the year, and there was some shocking things inside of his mock. And the reason why I like to go through these mocks is, as you guys know out there, some of the big media people, especially at ESPN and the NFL Network, their mocks are typically a pretty good indication of what the league thinks of players and where they will go. So I want to roll through the first round, and actually there is a second round to this mock, but let's just kind of do this one by one until we get to the Cowboys pick, because I want your thoughts as we're doing this, because you have not seen this mock, correct?
No, I have not.
Okay. All right. So at number 1 is Trevor Lawrence. At number 2 is Zach. Yeah, shock. Number 2 is Zach Wilson to the Jets. Number 3 is Mac Jones to the 49ers, which is
we've been hearing
it. Okay. Yep. So now this is where things get a little crazy, right? At number 4 is Kyle Pitts to the Falcons, which seems like the kind of the landing spot for Kyle Pitts. Mm-hmm. At number 5 is Jamar Chase going to the Bengals, reuniting with Joe Burrow. Okay. At number 6 is Devontae Smith going to Miami to play with Tua. Number 7 is a slight trade up for Carolina to get Trey Lance. Number 8 is Detroit taking Jalen Waddle. And number 9, the Denver Broncos take Patrick Surtain. So here we are, Landon, sitting at number 10, and both the offensive tackles, Penei Sewell and Rashawn Slater, are on the board, and quarterback Justin Fields is still on the board. You are the Dallas Cowboys. Where are you going if this scenario plays out?
Back. I'm going back.
You're going back.
I'm going back. Give me those trade options. What do you guys want for Justin Fields, who's actually probably the second best quarterback in this draft? I think if Fields, it's interesting to me that Fields falls, because this is. I've seen other mocks that have this similar, right? Mm-hmm. Because there's lots of smoke out there that Mac Jones is the quarterback that San Francisco is interested in.
Why?
And there's also, yeah. I mean, listen, we're not trying to understand. I'm just passing along information. And then we've heard, or at least I've heard as well, that Carolina has some infatuation with Trey Lance. So it's, to me, I don't understand the lack of respect for Justin Fields, I guess, is what it is. I think Justin Fields is a fantastic quarterback prospect. I think he's the number 1 pick.
Doesn't this top, let's say, 7 or 8 picks make a lot of sense? Like, when I look at the draft, I almost feel like this is very likely how it's going to go.
I absolutely think it's likely. I can't quite make sense, because I think, like I said, I think Justin Fields any other year is a number 1 overall pick.
I agree.
And so I think the idea that he could fall this far is frankly, all of this news is good news for the Cowboys, right? Like,
except for Patrick Surtain
going down. But honestly, since the beginning of this, if we were to rank the priority of what our favorite scenarios would be, Surtain was always second to trading back.
Yeah, sure, yes.
And so I think that if that opportunity represented itself in the form of Justin Fields falling to 10 and New England picking up the phone, or some team that's just like a couple spots back that's still in the quarterback race, why wouldn't the Cowboys think about trading back, picking up a couple of extra picks? Especially if Surtain's gone, right? Like, I think that makes it even more palatable, because you can take J.C. Horn if you want, and that's certainly is not a bad pick at all. But I just think that you're likely to get more bites at the apple with the trade back, an opportunity to kind of get a player that you may like a little bit more, but you may find better value at the trade back spot than you would at 10.
All right, so let's continue to break this down. So again, I'm going to remind the listeners when I said this, I did not say Penei Sewell was a top 9 pick in this draft. So he is still on the board for the Cowboys at 10. And that's what makes trading harder, right? Because it doesn't make it harder to trade. It makes it harder to trade away from that spot, right?
Fair.
Right. So if you're sitting at 10 and Penei Sewell is on the board and somebody wants to come up for Justin Fields, what do you do, Landon?
I mean, again, I think you have to see what the deal is. I love Sewell. I mean, I love what he's got. But if both Slater and Sewell are there and you have a trade back option, that might be worth it. Because, I mean, honestly, you may end up with one of those other guys depending on how far back you get and the extra pick.
Yes, I think you're onto something there. Let's go through. McShay actually has a couple trades happening in this mock directly after the Cowboys. So, for instance, in this mock, he has the Patriots trading up to 11 to grab Justin Fields. What they give up, again, so they're drafting at 15. They're giving up pick 96 and a 2022 second-round pick. Is that enough for you to go from 10 to 15, giving up Sewell and maybe J.C. Horn?
No, I need more than
that. And that's the problem. All right, so let me give you a different scenario. Let's say the Raiders, who desperately needed offensive tackle, they drafted 17. They also have pick 48. Would you go down from 10 to 17 and pick up 48?
Yes, I would do that.
Okay. See, I don't think I would, though. And because I think if you're trading back that far, let's go through the names. Let's see who would be available to you if you did that in this draft, Landon.
Who's available in the McShay draft?
Well, that's what I'm going to say. All right. So
let's
say we go down to pick 17. All right. I will give you some guys that are available. These are actually the guys that go in order. Trevon Merrick, the safety from TCU. Caleb Farley, the cornerback from Virginia Tech. Christian Darrisaw. Kadarius Toney, Kwity Paye, Greg Newsome, Tevin Jenkins, Elijah Moore, Jamin Davis, Azeez Ojulari. That's the problem here.
What's the problem? I don't see a problem. I'll take any of those guys at 17. I got no issues. And then take another guy at 48 and have 44. Give me that, man.
It's not that I have a problem with it. It's just I have a problem with it if I'm trading away from Sewell. That's the issue here, right? Like if Sewell goes inside the top 9 and he's just not there and I'm trading away from J.C. Horn, I get it. But if I'm trading away from Sewell, that's where I have a problem.
I think it certainly is not cut and dry. I mean, I certainly understand your hesitancy there. Sewell's one of the guys besides Pitts, I think, that we've said that offensively, if they fall to 10 and you don't have other options, that's a great pick. That's a fantastic pick, and I think Slater falls into that category too.
Mm-hmm.
At the same time, I think you clearly have multiple needs. You clearly have a team that, and this is kind of flying in the face of my own desires to trade up from 44, but you clearly have a team that, you need some multiple bites at the apple here. You need a couple different spots. It's hard to trade away from a guy like Sewell because, especially when you have an aging left tackle, and the guy that you could potentially be replacing with him seems like, the kind of guy that you got originally with Tyron Smith, right? A 20-year-old freak of nature athlete.
The other thing is here, Landon, let's say somebody comes up and gets Fields, I've got an awfully hard time allowing Penei Sewell to fall to either the Giants or the Eagles in the next 2 spots. Like that's the part that would really suck, right?
That's fair.
It's hard.
I mean, but the truth is that they're going to get Rashawn Slater, or they're going to get we can't stop these guys.
That's true. You can't draft based on worrying about what everybody else is going to do. It's just, listen, Landon, when we were doing these podcasts in December talking about the NFL draft, we were thinking if the Cowboys picked at 4, Penei Sewell might be the best pick they could possibly make at that spot, right?
Yeah.
And now if we're sitting at 10 and he's still there, I don't know if a mid-second round pick is enough for me to move away from him. Listen, I love trading down. I love picking up more assets. It's just I hate to keep using this word, but if a generational offensive tackle is there and you're trading away from that, that's where I have a little bit of a problem.
Yeah, and I guess that all comes down to how they view Sewell,
yes.
Because I think I agree with you that I think he's a rare talent. I think we talked about this. I think, other people may not feel this way, but I think you stack him up against the last year's tackle group, and I think he fits very nicely near the top of that group. So I certainly it's not an easy decision. It's certainly not, but it's also kind of a champagne problem, right? You got two really good choices. That's picking Sewell or getting an opportunity to trade back and pick up picks, and then still getting a player that you like at 17. Because honestly, I mean, even the names that you listed there.
Yeah, if it's Oshalari, if it's Darrisaw,
Darrisaw at 17, if plus a second round pick, I think that's appealing.
There's also other guys. I mean, Greg Newsome is there, Jamin Davis, Zaven Collins, Jalen Phillips. So there is talent there. It's just how much do you want to trade away from Penei Sewell?
Well,
go ahead.
And real quick, I will say this. I mean, you call Jalen Phillips the wild card of the draft. I could not agree with you more.
Mm-hmm.
This is a guy who has top 5 talent. Does trading back and giving you that extra pick give you the coverage you need to feel comfortable taking someone like Jalen Phillips at 17? I think it would, and that could potentially being a real game changer if he hits.
I agree. That's the range where I start considering him because the talent is just unbelievable. Let's talk about what McShay actually did for the Cowboys, because he did neither of those two options for the Cowboys sitting at number 10.
He didn't. Of course he did.
He actually gave them J.C. Horn, the cornerback from South Carolina. And honestly, I don't hate it. Like if you're not going to trade back, taking J.C. Horn at 10 is a lot of fun. We don't need to go through this whole thing of how he fits into the Cowboys defense because we already know. I mean, he would be a fantastic fit. He's a great athlete. I also think he gives them a little bit of an edge that they've been missing on defense for a little bit. I have no problem with that at all. I want to talk about what he did for the Cowboys in the second round because, Landon, I thought it was very interesting the name that he gave to the Cowboys. At pick, what are the Cowboys pick? 44 in the second. 44. They already got their cornerback, so they take the best defensive player available, which is Christian Barmore, the defensive tackle from Alabama. Now, if you would have told me 2 weeks ago, Barmore falling to 44, I wouldn't have believed it. But he wasn't the best tester at the combine, on his pro day. It sounds like the NFL world isn't quite as high on him. But how would you feel if the Cowboys were able to go 1-2 of J.C. Horn, Christian Barmore?
I mean, I feel pretty good. I mean, I think, Barmore definitely struggles in the run game, as we've discussed before. And I think, I think a lot of that can be cleaned up. What he does well is something that is very hard to find in this draft class is he's a very good interior pass rusher.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's something that's very highly coveted nowadays in today's short game and quick game of the NFL. Teams are more wanting to get the ball out of their quarterback's hands quicker to get, to avoid the pass rush that's happening. And I think that the only way to kind of really counteract that with pass rush is to have an interior pass rusher who can get to the quarterback quickly or disrupt in front of his face. And I think that Barmore is a guy that can come in and provide that to a certain degree in a way that a lot of these other defensive tackles under 3 technique types can't. So I think 44 is probably an appropriate spot to take someone like Barmore. He played sparingly as far as a draft pick goes at Alabama, but I also think there's a reason that they kept on trying to put him on the field because he had a skill set that was coveted by Nick Saban.
Yeah, and I do think he's a little different than Neville Gallimore and Tristan Hill, right? I mean, in some ways he's similar, in some ways he's different, right? I mean, I think all 3 of those guys have problems stopping the run, but I think the difference is his body is quite a bit different than those other 2, right?
Yeah, he's more kind of big and long, a little bit and taller, and I think he's probably a little bit, maybe a little bit slippier. Is that the word?
Yeah,
slippier.
Sure.
A little bit more slippy. Yeah.
He's 310 pounds. That's the other thing. Is
Yeah.
like and he's 6'6", so he's got the frame to add another 10 pounds. And if you got somebody who can be a 1 technique and a 3 technique, can flip back and forth, that's valuable. It's just, it would not shock me at all, Landon, if it never comes together, or if in year 3 it comes together, right?
Yeah, that's the issue with defensive tackles, right? Is that you know they all develop kind of at different rates, and depending on their skill sets, it's more or less useful early on in their career. And that's why guys like, we're going to see what happens with Tristan Hill this year.
Yeah.
But I wouldn't be surprised if Tristan Hill broke out and had a great season next year. And I think when you look back at his first 2 seasons, that would be a shocking surprise. But that's kind of just how defensive tackles are sometimes, is that sometimes it takes, especially the younger ones, it takes them a little bit longer to kind of develop. It takes them a little bit longer to get used to the speed that these big guys inside are moving with. And then once they get adjusted to that, a lot of them that have the talent, that flash early on in their career, they find their way back to that talent, and they find their way back to production.
Yeah, I think Barmore is somebody, if he's there at 44, it almost doesn't matter who else is around, because the talent is just so good, and it's at a position of need. Just keep adding picks to the defensive tackle spot. I think that's good. Now, let's play some would you rather, Landon. Hindsight 2020 in this draft. So McShay gave the Cowboys J.C. Horn and Christian Barmore. That's hard to beat. But looking back at his draft now, would you rather have like Penei Sewell at 10 and then take your corner in the second round, which is either Melifonwu, Tyson Campbell, or Eric Stokes?
I think that's a good option too. I mean, I think that's because I think you can take Sewell, and you could take Tyson Campbell, you could take Melifonwu. Either one of those guys can plug in opposite of Diggs, and you have, that's the thing, is you're playing a Quinn cover 3 system.
Yep.
You don't have to have an elite corner like that, as long as you've got a solid group across the board that are fitting into their drops, and someone who can play some man coverage. I think Diggs and Melifonwu both fall into that category. I think Stokes could do that. I think Campbell.
As I say, you hate Tyson Campbell. It sounded like you did not say that at all.
I don't hate Tyson Campbell. I just think that he is going to he's going to fit certain systems more than others, right?
Yeah,
I think he's going to fit the Cowboys system better than others. So I don't hate Campbell. I just think that he, when I was evaluating him, I think that he is he's probably a good fit for the Cowboys, but not necessarily across the board. I think that Stokes is more of a guy that you could try to fit into any system if you want.
Okay. What about J.C. Horn and Alex Leatherwood, or Penei Sewell and your favorite cornerback?
I definitely think I would take Penei Sewell, my favorite cornerback.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah. All right. Let me give you one more. All right. Let's assume the Cowboys did the trade back with the Raiders, picked up picks number 17 and 48, and let's go Jalen Phillips, and then you get, let's say, Christian Barmore and your favorite cornerback in the second round.
Yeah, I mean, I think honestly at that point, I may think about getting a safety. I may think you get like Richie Grant at 48 or something like that, right?
Yeah,
and they go sign a veteran corner after
let's do that.
After the draft.
Let's say it's Jalen Phillips, and let's say it's Tyson Campbell and Richie Grant. Do you like that better than J.C. Horn and Barmore?
Maybe a little bit, just because I think that that's really tough.
That's where that trade back does help, because you could, if you're just sitting in the second round, you could go and just take 2 guys that are falling. You could also package your other 2 third-round picks and go up and get a 3rd second-round pick, and maybe try to get an offensive tackle, a safety, and a cornerback. It gives you a lot of options. The bad thing is I'm not sure you're going to get an elite level talent, especially if Jalen Phillips can't stay healthy.
Yeah, I mean, I think if Azeez Ojulari is there or Newsom's there, I think you still have a chance of getting a really good player
Right.
And obviously Phillips as well. You have the opportunity to still get a really good player that you like. There is some risk there. I think that's why those players aren't going in the top 10. But I think those three specifically, I think will be available at 17. And I think they still give you the opportunity to really improve what's happening on the defensive side of the ball.
So overall, a pretty good mock by Todd McShay gives the Cowboys a lot of different options. I'm certainly, if they end up with J.C. Horn and Christian Barmore in the first 2 rounds, I'll listen. Even if they don't pick Penei Sewell, I will come away very happy with that draft. That is quite the haul. It certainly gives the Cowboys lots of options, lots of things that they can potentially do. I think that's a pretty good scenario for the Cowboys. What are your final thoughts on McShay's mock?
Yeah, I mean, again, I think, just hearing this, I thought it was going to be a crazy mock draft. But honestly, I think this is probably pretty close to how things are going to play out. I think the Cowboys, the real hurdle that the Cowboys need to worry about is at 9 and seeing if Denver takes Surtain. But I think that there's a very high the likelihood that the Cowboys end up at 10 with Surtain available. And then, anything outside of that, it may actually be more interesting for the Cowboys. Yeah. And I think this kind of showed this, like Justin Fields being available. There are 9 offensive players that are the highly ranked, so if one of them doesn't get picked before us, there's a chance that there's a team that's going to want to trade up for one of those guys, whether it's Pitts or Chase or Fields or whoever it is.
Yeah, I would say the good thing is if one of the receivers falls, I think teams across the NFL know that the Giants and the Eagles would like to grab one of those guys, and having them pick at 11 and 12, I think makes it a natural landing spot for the Cowboys at number 10. So. It's going to be a crazy draft. I'm excited. We're less than a month away, and it seems like we're starting to get an idea how the top 5 or 6 picks should shake out, and I think the Cowboys are going to be sitting pretty good. That is it for today's show. Thank you guys for tuning in. As always, you can download and subscribe to the podcast on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, wherever you get your podcasts. You can follow the show on Twitter at Locked On Cowboys. You can follow Landon at McCool BCB, and I'm at Marcus _Mosher.